Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So I see a lot of familiar faces. As most of you know, I spoke this morning at Abney. It's not the same speech, don't worry. It's a different speech, but I won't be before you long because I know I stand in a dangerous place. I love you more between you and your food, so it's going to be very short. First, good evening, everyone, and it's an honor to be with all of you. And thank you, Julie, for that kind introduction and for your tireless leadership of this organization, especially during this time of environmental crisis. You see, none of us gets to choose the era we are born into. Our fate is to be the climate crisis generation, inheritors of a legacy that may be fatal to our kind. I'm sure many of you know of Paul Hawken, a great environmentalist who was also on Dr. King's staff in Selma, Alabama. I'd like to echo a response he gives when he's asked about our shared future. Look at the science and you can't help being pessimistic. Meet the people who are working to restore this earth and you can't help being optimistic. We are scientists and school teachers, community leaders and CEOs, philanthropists and poets, and yes, even an occasional fearless attorney general. We are the people in this room. So against all fear, I am optimistic because of people like you. As I said this morning, I wake up each and every day drunk on hope and I do not drink. I want to acknowledge tonight's honorees, Vincent Albanese and Tristan Grimbert. Yes, a round of applause. Thank you for your commitment to protecting our planet, and to board chairs Steve Russo, Tom Dewey, and to all of you for being stewards of this organization and in turn, our environment. My journey to environmental activism didn't begin in a majestic forest. It started in my beloved Brooklyn. Yeah, it's Brooklyn in the house. Where I was born and still live. When I was a city council member, I was deeply troubled by the air quality near public housing and the high rates of asthma as a result. And during that time, we lost 2 beautiful children as a result of asthma attacks. I carry their pictures with me today. They couldn't breathe. Those 2 children, they inspired me to take on the cause of environmental justice, which is inextricably linked to the cause of racial and economic justice, because these children lived in public housing near the BQE, and they were also very poor. Climate change is the crisis of our time, but sadly, it isn't the only environmental crisis of our time. The air, the water, our fellow living creatures are all under assault. And environmental justice should not just be an issue for the rich or for those who are comfortable, because the first in line are poor people, people who look like me, brown people, black people, the disadvantaged, those struggling under the weight of poverty, those locked out of the sunshine of opportunity, those who rarely come to events like these, but those who I see in my beloved Brooklyn each and every day, those who I talk to, those who cannot breathe, and those who are concerned about being trapped in between 2 thoroughfares in Brooklyn, and those whose parents work each and every day and all that they want are the same things that you and I want. As Attorney General, I've tried to use every power of my office to protect our environment and our people. And I did not know that when I was elected as the Attorney General that I would be somehow but propelled into the public spotlight, the national spotlight, because we were dealing with the Trump administration, who was hostile and regressive and was intent on rolling back all of the progress that we have made in terms of environmental protections. And I'm so happy to report that we led the way amongst attorney generals in this nation in fighting back. Now, the credit is not mine alone. The credit belongs to someone who's in this room, someone who rarely takes the center stage, but someone who needs to be recognized. Where is Lem? Lem, please stand. There he is. He's standing already. They didn't give you a seat, Lem? Do they know who you are? This is Lem Scrolovic. He is the attorney in charge of our Environmental Protection Bureau, and I think you can do better with your applause because this is the man that led the fight. I've known Lem for over 20 years, and he's educated me so much on the environment. And he was the one, along with some other wonderful attorney generals and our entire team, he is the one that took on almost over 300 actions against the previous administration. 300 legal actions he led. And just to, we sued the Trump Environmental Protection Agency for ignoring its responsibility under the Clean Air Act to control upwind sources of pollution that create smog in New York. We sued them for attempting to undermine the Clean Water Act, for weakening clean car standards, for limiting requirements that federal agencies evaluate the environmental impact of major infrastructure projects, for allowing dangerous pesticides to be used without limitation on the foods we eat every day, including baby food, for using the pandemic as cover to stop enforcing critical environmental laws and regulations. And most recently, Lem led the effort against this major plastics company in Louisiana, one of the largest in the nation. And this major plastics company was located in a cancer belt in a community of low-income individuals that were disproportionately impacted by all of this industry. And we fought back. They were not subject to any regulation. But Lem decided to take it on. And we urge the Biden administration to have it subject to regulation, to have it subject to a review. And I am so happy to report, even though it wasn't in New York State, it was important to understand and recognize that it was a humanitarian effort. And I'm so happy to report we won again. And now we have a new day in Washington. And we've been working with the Biden administration on a list of environmental issues that need immediate attention. In fact, I'll be honest with you, on the day that he was sworn in, I had 10 pages of items that I wanted him to reverse. And Lem said, slow down, Tish. You see, we'll use the law to support Biden's efforts to strengthen critical regulations. But enforcement and not litigation will be our intended focus going forward with the Biden administration. We must ensure that they are targeting efforts in the right places. For example, unhealthy levels of air pollution, which is critical in our urban areas, and illegal dumping, which is a major problem, particularly on Long Island and in parts of upstate New York. And at the same time, an important lesson of the Trump years is that when we cannot count on Washington, it's important that this state, this majestic state, that they aggressively take matters into their own hands, urging our federal leaders to do more and to do better, and using our authority to fight for the environment at home. And when this infrastructure bill is passed, it is important to remember that it be subject to environmental regulation. That is so critically important. And I do not believe of the false choice between jobs and the environment, because we, my friends, can do both. The past 16 years, from Hurricane Katrina to Hurricane Ida, have shown us that our state is on the front lines of the climate crisis. We've seen schools and subways and roads hobbled. We've seen our people brought to the brink by punishing heat waves. We've mourned the deaths of fellow New Yorkers from floods. And we know that there are ongoing assaults on our environment from illegal polluters. My office takes on these cases whenever we can find them. We're suing those who dump hazardous waste into our waters and open places from Western New York up and down the Hudson River and beyond. And whenever we have settlement funds to invest, we actively look to make New York more sustainable by creating real creative solutions. And that means using millions to buy the first of its kind electric trucks to replace diesel ones for not-for-profits. And whenever we can, we are pushing our state to invest in a cleaner future. Because as you know, as the Attorney General, we also have an office that focuses on the state legislature, and we have been very successful in terms of our agenda. I am proud that I was amongst the first elected officials to call for the New York City pensions to divest from fossil fuels. And that finally happened this year, and I want to thank Comptroller Stringer and Mayor de Blasio for getting it done. But I want to say again, because we can never forget it, the crisis in our environment affects us all, but it doesn't affect us all equally. We know that concern for our planet is often seen as a problem reserved for the privileged, those amongst us with the luxury to think beyond the next paycheck. Yet the paradox is that it is the very people who have the least to worry about that suffer the most. Before I conclude, I want to mention a prime example of this: the quiet, terrifying plague of lead poisoning. It strikes in low-income communities. It robs the very children whose families have the fewest resources to support them of their health and support them of their futures. And across the state, my office is investigating bad landlords for their role in child lead poisoning. We have various investigations ongoing, but the actions we've made public so far involve landlords who manage more than 16,000 apartments in Buffalo and right here in the city. And we are ensuring that these landlords follow the law when it comes to preventing lead poisoning. And in the New York City case alone, we've obtained $800,000 to fund lead poisoning prevention efforts all across the state of New York. And there is more to come. I will conclude by saying this: we are suffering under the weight of a deadly pandemic. We are languishing in the long, painful struggle for racial and economic justice. And we are sweltering and dying from extreme heat and weather. But we have a secret weapon, and that's all of you in this room. None of us can do this alone. All of us must do it together. I don't pretend what I have done as Attorney General is the only solution to our challenge, but I am determined to do my part. My office, my phone, and my heart are open whenever the cause needs. And on behalf of the people of the state of New York, who it is my privilege to serve each and every day, I want to offer my profound gratitude to everyone who has made our shared future your mission. May God's grace be with all of you, your families, the miraculous, wondrous, and besieged planet that we live on. And may we all work together to recognize that we're all in this together. Thank you, and God bless you.